From a six-time major legend getting torched in a single week, to a guy who lost the Open on one hole he still has nightmares about. These are the 10 most brutal downfalls in golf history, and we're starting from number 10. Number 10. Nick Faldo. He built his whole career on control, 6 majors, 0 panic. When Faldo had a lead, the tournament felt over. So his downfall isn't about his swing falling apart. It's about what happened when he stepped into a different job, being a captain. In 2008, Faldo led Europe at the Ryder Cup at Valhalla, and Europe lost 16.5 to 11.5. And the reaction afterward was rough. A lot of the criticism wasn't about effort, it was about decisions. The tone he set, how he handled the week, and calls that looked questionable once the result was out. The biggest turning point was Sunday. Faldo's singles order got slammed because critics felt he didn't send his strongest guys out early enough, which let the Americans build momentum and finish the match before Europe's later pairings could even swing it back. That's why this one makes the list. When you're a legend, people expect you to stay in the untouchable category. Great player, great voice, great leader. And then one Ryder Cup week turned Faldo into an argument. And if you think that's harsh, we're just warming up. Because the next one is what happens when a player's mouth creates a shadow they can't escape. Number 9. Sergio Garcia. Sergio Garcia is one of those careers where the talent was never the question. The question was always, can he stay out of his own way? He arrived with massive hype, but he also built a reputation for blow-ups when things went sideways, animated reactions, angry comments, and moments where the frustration became the story instead of his score. Then came the moment that really damaged his image. During that tense stretch with Tiger Woods in 2013, Sergio was asked if he'd invite Tiger to dinner. He replied, "We will have him around every night. We will serve fried chicken." That comment was widely condemned as a racial stereotype, and that's the brutal part of Sergio's downfall. It wasn't just a bad headline for a few days. It locked in a reputation that followed him: emotional, volatile, crossing lines when he felt cornered. In golf, that matters. Because once fans and media stop giving you the benefit of the doubt, everything you do gets viewed through the worst lens. Even when Sergio later rebuilt his career on the course, that period stayed attached to his name. Now, let's move from reputation damage to something even messier, when controversy turns into a full-blown collision with the system. Number 8. Vijay Singh. Vijay Singh was never just hype, he was proof. 3 majors, world number 1, a guy who built his whole reputation on grinding and results. Then, in 2013, he got pulled into a controversy that changed how people talked about him. Here's the simple version. Singh was reported to have admitted using deer antler spray. The PGA Tour opened an investigation, and for a while it turned into that awkward period where nobody's talking about his golf. They're talking about the story. Eventually, the tour dropped the case, but it didn't end there. Singh sued the PGA Tour over how it handled the investigation, and the whole thing dragged on for years before it was settled. And that's why this counts as a downfall. Because once your name gets tied to an anti-doping headline and a lawsuit, your legacy stops being just wins and majors. Okay, now we go to one of the most unsettling downfalls on this list. Because it's what happens when an elite player just fades out of nowhere. Number 7. Hunter Mahan. Hunter Mahan didn't look like a guy who could disappear. At his peak, he was right there with the elite. He won 2 World Golf Championships and climbed all the way to world number 4 in 2012. He was a Ryder Cup regular and the kind of player you expected to see in big events every year. And he wasn't just around. In 2011, He was literally in the playoff at the Tour Championship against Bill Haas, with the FedEx Cup on the line. Haas won it, but the point is, Mahan was operating at the highest level of the sport. Then the fall came. And it wasn't one headline moment. It was the slow kind. The results got worse. The starts got harder to secure. And eventually, he was doing something almost nobody pictures for a former world number 4, trying to fight his way back to a PGA Tour card. In 2017, he went to the Web.com Tour Finals specifically to try to regain his status. And in 2018, he managed to recapture his tour card at those finals. That's why Mahan belongs on this list, because golf didn't take him out in one explosion. It just kept pushing him down the ladder until he was back in survival mode. And now, speaking of survival mode, number 6 is the modern version of lost swing, lost confidence, happening right in front of the world. Number 6, Smiley Kaufman. Smiley Kaufman's downfall is brutal because he looked like he'd arrived. In October 2015, he won the Shriners Hospitals for Children Open in just his 5th PGA Tour start. And it wasn't some lucky break. He closed with a 10 under 61 and took the tournament. That kind of start changes how people look at you. Overnight, you're not just a rookie. You're the next big thing. But then it flipped. This wasn't one bad month. It was a long stretch where the results fell apart. Here's the number that shows how rough it got. In the 2017-18 season, he missed 18 cuts in 22 starts and withdrew once. Later reporting pointed to a mix of injury and confidence issues. And in golf, those two things feed each other. Your body doesn't feel right, your swing gets shaky, you start pressing, and suddenly every round feels like you're trying to rebuild your game from scratch. That's why he's on this list. He proved he could win on tour. And then golf took away the one thing you can't fake out there: belief. Now, if that one felt painful, the next downfall is brutal for a totally different reason. Number 5. Patrick Reed. Patrick Reed's downfall isn't about ability. On paper, he's a big-time player. He won the Masters in 2018. He's won multiple PGA Tour events. And in Ryder Cups, he's had a reputation as a real difference maker. But over time, the bigger story around Reed became trust. For a lot of fans, the turning point was December 2019 at the Hero World Challenge. Reed was hit with a 2-shot penalty for improving his lie in a sandy waste area. The clip went everywhere. Reed argued the TV shot made it look worse, saying a different camera angle might have changed how it was judged. But people only saw that as an excuse, and the moment stuck. And it wasn't coming out of nowhere. Reed had dealt with cheating allegations dating back to his college days, plus other rules flare-ups over the years. That's why Reed makes this list. In golf, once you're seen as the guy people don't fully trust, every ruling becomes a fight, every clip becomes evidence, and your career turns into an argument. Now, let's jump to a downfall that looks completely unreal on paper. Number 4. David Duval. David Duval reached the absolute top of golf. Not, he's having a nice season. Not, he's a top 10 guy. Duval was world number 1. He won the biggest events. He won the Open. And then, it just fell off a cliff. After injuries and health issues piled up, the drop got so extreme that when he showed up at the 2009 US Open at Bethpage Black, he was ranked 882nd in the world. That number is crazy because it's hard to picture. Most fans think once you've been that good, you can't just disappear. But golf doesn't care. One injury turns into 2. You start making little adjustments to protect your body. Those adjustments change your swing. Then you start chasing the confidence you once had. That's what makes Duval's downfall so brutal. He went from the throne to a ranking that feels like a typo. And the cruelest part? Every now and then, He'd flash the old Duval just enough to remind you the talent was still in there. It was just buried underneath all the physical challenges. All right, now we go from physical decline to the scariest kind of collapse. The kind where you lose your swing so completely, you don't recognize yourself anymore. Number 3. Ian Baker Finch. Ian Baker Finch won the Open Championship in 1991. That's the kind of thing that's supposed to make you untouchable. But his downfall is one of the hardest to watch because it wasn't a normal slump. He lost his swing, not a little, not for a few holes. He lost the feeling completely. By the time the Open came back to Royal Troon in 1997, he was already struggling badly, to the point where just showing up felt like a battle. There, he shot 92 in the first round and withdrew. That number matters because it wasn't just a bad day. It happened on the biggest stage with everyone watching, and it showed what golf can do when your confidence and your mechanics collapse at the same time. That's why Baker Finch sits this high. No scandal, no one-hole meltdown. Just a major champion who couldn't access the version of himself that once won the Open. Now, player number 2 on our list didn't just collapse on the scorecard, he did so in real life. Number 2. John Daly. John Daly is golf's ultimate what-if story. Because the talent was obvious. 2 major wins, unreal power, and a personality that made him bigger than the sport. But Daly's downfall didn't happen in one crash. It happened in a loop. Daly has openly said gambling cost him $50 to $60 million. He's talked about losing huge amounts in casinos and how it nearly ruined him. And the off-course problems kept spilling into his career. Alcohol issues, public incidents, and tour discipline. In late 2008, the PGA Tour suspended him for 6 months. What makes Daly's downfall so brutal is that you'd still see the flashes of brilliance. A bomb drive, a hot streak, a reminder that the raw ability never left. But then the chaos would catch up again. Another setback, another derailment, another year where the story around Daly was bigger than the golf. So when people call him a what if, that's what they mean. Not what if he had more talent, but what if he'd had stability? And now, number 1. This is the most brutal downfall because it didn't take a season. It didn't even take a round. It took 1 hole. Number 1. Jean van de Velde. This is the downfall that proves golf can erase 4 great days in about 10 minutes. 1999 Open Championship, Carnoustie. Jean van de Velde steps onto the 18th tee with a 3-shot lead on a par 4. That means he could make a double bogey and still win the Open. And then it unraveled. He ended up making a triple bogey 7, which forced a playoff with Paul Lawrie and Justin Leonard. Lawrie won the playoff and took the claret jug. That's why this is number 1, because it isn't just that he lost. It's that the collapse on that single hole became the story of the entire championship. In golf, your worst moment doesn't just haunt you. Sometimes it becomes the first thing people remember about you. And that's exactly what happened with Jean van de Velde.